I can hear stuff through the headphones.
You can?
Yes.
Oh,
That's what I want. Yeah, you just bump this green button.
We solved the problem.
Can you only hear me now?
Yeah.
I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
That
Wow.
was what I was trying to communicate earlier.
Jeez. All right. Cool.
Although I didn't realize that was the issue.
I didn't either. All right.
Okay. Wow.
Road, you're okay.
Well, we're all going to be able
You're
to hear
okay.
then.
Yeah.
Okay.
We did it.
Woo!
We did it, guys.
What a start to this podcast. Oh. Let's roll it. Let's go.
Good morning, afternoon, and or evening, everyone. Thank you for coming back and hanging out with us. As always, we are your hosts, the Genesius guys. I'm Nick.
Filling in for Kyle, I'm Seth.
And I'm John.
And we are three Catholic dudes who love to talk about movies. This is the Genesius podcast. How's it going, guys?
Good.
It's good. This is indeed the Genesius podcast. Yeah.
It is. Do you guys want to hear a joke I heard?
Yes.
I don't know. Do I?
Well, I'll tell it anyway. It's a pretty, I thought it was really funny. Guys, did you know that diarrhea is genetic?
This is great to have right after
No.
Valentine's Day.
Well, it runs through your genes.
Oh my God. That is bad. Wow.
You say right after Valentine's Day, but don't forget, this is actually coming out
Yeah.
at the time of recording. It's actually coming out next Friday.
But we're all wearing red.
Oh yeah, I suppose we are.
I guess so. Yeah.
It's actually for Iron Man, right?
Well, kind
Iron
of.
Man's
That's what
red,
that's what
right?
that's for.
Well, yeah, we got the little
Got the
bust.
the little Iron Man helmet.
Mm-hmm.
For
little
those
shot.
For those of you watching, you can see it, but if you're listening, there's a Lego Iron Man helmet that is front and center.
Yeah, it's actually I really like the detailing on the front, especially. It's really quite nice. But it has like the earpiece area too.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
good.
Well, it's not the only helmet that Nick got this week.
Oh
yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess you didn't get.
It
You
wasn't
already
a Lego-
had this before.
They don't. Okay, you know what's really funny? That Lego didn't think to make like. So they make like helmets like they have a bunch of ones for Star Wars, which are like up there.
Yep.
But they don't do a lot of like Marvel ones, which Iron Man like works really well.
Mhm.
And they made a Star-Lord helmet for Guardians of the Galaxy 3 coming out in May.
Yep.
That's cool.
And for some reason, there isn't one for Ant-Man.
Ant-Man's not cool enough.
Shut your mouth.
Yeah, I said it. Sorry, Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd is cool, not Ant-Man.
Ant-Man's my favorite superhero, bro.
Paul Rudd's cool. Scott Lang's cool, not Ant-Man.
So okay.
I love how much
so
this triggered you.
Ant-Man or the Atom?
It's kind of the same superhero.
It's DC's version of Ant-Man, basically.
Oh, I see.
I think Adam in the Legends of Tomorrow, like Arrowverse series, is pretty
Mhm.
cool.
Oh yeah, I gotcha.
That actor actually played Superman in
Yep.
like-
The fourth Superman.
yeah, Superman 4, I think.
Yeah. Long time ago.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is probably the most banter that like
Wait,
an Iron
hold
Man
on.
has had.
Hold
Anyway.
on. Why are we talking about DC? What's DC got to do with what we're talking about today?
I was wondering where he like placed it because they're so similar characters. But
Yeah.
but I mean, this is probably the most banter that we've had for this because we're actually doing this one.
Yeah,
prior, but-
due to some scheduling stuff, we are actually recording this in reverse order than we normally would.
Yeah. So we're doing this one first today, and then we're gonna do our previous episode.
Yeah.
Next.
So by the time you are watching or listening to this now, you'll have already heard Megan Schlichting trash The Princess Bride. Although we don't quite, at the time of recording now, we have no idea what she's gonna say.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm
It's a
looking
surprise.
forward to it.
What if she actually completely flipped?
That would
It
be
is now
amazing. That would be
praising the movie.
amazing.
That-
I would, dude. I mean,
Hey, we got Seth to convert.
We're
right?
hovering.
We did.
We're
We got
hovering. Megan Schlichting flipping on the Princess Bride.
Inconceivable!
Yes! There we go. There we go.
Yes.
Oh my god.
I knew that was going to be one of the recordings. It had to be.
I would be disappointed if that wasn't on there.
Yeah. No, it had to be.
Inconceivable.
The weird thing was I actually had a pick, right? I could pick from a number of different samples. I chose that one.
Oh, true. He
Yeah.
says it so many times in that movie.
He does. He says it like 5
I
or 6
don't
times.
think that word means what you think it means.
You keep using the word. I do not think it means what you think it means.
Yes.
I had to put that in too.
We are going to be using this a lot.
Yeah. Those
Or
are
if you are, or from the future, we will have used this a lot.
yes.
Yeah, you probably don't have as many from the movie we're doing.
You know, some of these
this
sound bites,
time, though.
I think what's going to happen are some of these sound bites are literally going to like go into like the most iconic lines are going to make it onto their own pad, right? And they're just going to stick with us the whole podcast.
Actually, after watching Princess Bride,
Tony Stark
now
was able
have-
to build this in a cave with a box of scraps.
Oh, do you
yes,
still
we
have
have
it?
that too.
just
Of course.
Tony Stark was able to build this in a cave.
Wait for it. Keep waiting.
Wait.
With a box of scraps.
There we go. So yeah, I think some of these
So
are
speaking of the sequel,
Yeah, that was a good. Yeah, that's a good segue to the movie we were talking about today.
Tony Stark was able to build this movie in a cave with a box of scraps.
That's how the first one felt like.
That
This one
is-
felt like maybe a little bit more money was thrown towards it.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah,
and
well,
like he can actually build suits in his own shop.
Yeah.
A
well,
little bit
today,
too many, some might say.
yeah, today we are talking about the second Iron Man movie, Iron Man 2.
Directed by Jon Favreau again. Written by Justin Theroux. Did he also write the first one?
No, he did not. I don't
Okay.
think he
Okay.
helped out the first one.
Yeah.
He's a pretty like I've heard that name before. I can't remember where I've heard it, but it's a pretty popular. I've heard that name thrown around quite a bit.
Isn't that like an author? No, but I mean not for this movie. But I mean,
isn't he kind of an author if he's a screenwriter?
Hold on. Just Justin Theroux.
well, it's French.
Wow. You had to really step that up, didn't you?
Actually, aren't
Yes.
both last names French? Favreau.
Okay.
I feel like Favreau would have an X if it was French.
He has no credits of note, which is to say he's got like quite a few. Oh, no, never mind. This is actually his acting career.
That's why I know. That's why I know that name.
Yeah,
'cause
he's an American Psycho. Let's see. What else does he got here that I recognize? Miami Vice, he was in that. Tropic Thunder, he was executive producer and writer. He was
Thunder.
He was Megamind's father in Megamind, and he was also a creative consultant for the film.
that makes sense.
Yep. Did he do any other MCU credits? He's the cameo as the Master Code Breaker, like the actual Master Code Breaker.
Oh, in Last Jedi.
Yes.
That's probably where I heard the name.
By the way, Nick, I feel like I need to apologize because I've been harping on The Last Jedi for years at this point. And I would like to say that I'm no longer going to do that. The new target.
Yet.
The new no.
I know it's gonna happen
Well,
again.
when we talk about the movie, of course. But I would like to apologize and say that I have reformed my ways and that I will now be hating on the Hobbit trilogy.
That's valid.
Yes. See, we can all agree on that one.
I wasn't sure where you were going, but that's
I
perfectly
genuinely
valid.
thought, you know what? Nick would probably appreciate me hating on the Hobbit trilogy more.
I haven't even seen all of the Hobbit movies. Is the thing.
Good.
The thing I will say though, like I think
I've seen the entire second movie and like the last maybe 30 minutes of the last one.
Well, the first one's the best one out of those.
Yeah, and that's the one I haven't seen.
But I think at least for me, there are some saving scenes in the Hobbit trilogy to make it.
So the first
But
movie,
anyway,
yeah.
there's like so many
let's
scenes that
say-
are like really, really good.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it's garbage.
Could you say that for Iron Man 2?
I would say the entire movie is just kind of
Yeah, I figure that's where you're going.
Yeah.
Anyway, it came out on May 7th, 2010.
wow.
With a budget
13
of-
years ago.
Yeah, that's wild.
That's wild.
It's a budget of $200 million, and it made more than 3 times that in the box office.
Yep. Bona fide success.
And for the first time on our show, the
Oh, wow.
critic and audience score is exactly the same at a 71.
Very interesting.
So have I earned the right to
Oh
read
yeah.
these now?
Oh yes.
I completely
Oh
botched
yes.
Go for it.
After last week, you've earned it.
Let's see. Okay.
Or 2 weeks ago. I should say.
Stylish sci-fi follow-up, charting the further adventures of a freewheeling weapons manufacturer, Robert Downey Jr., whose high-tech suit of armor transforms him at will into the
Titular hero.
titular
Titular.
Titular.
Just titular.
titular hero.
Off to a
I
great
really
start.
still can't speak, but
Go
anyway,
for it.
okay.
Keep going.
I
As
made
he
the
battles-
font bigger for you, man.
Just baby steps. Keep going.
as he battles a gifted but warped Russian scientist, Mickey Rourke, and competes against a Smarmy. What are these Smarmy? What is that?
Hold on.
Okay.
Watch the master at work. All right. As he competes against a smarmy rival industrialist played by Sam Rockwell with the on-again, off-again help of his former military liaison, Don Cheadle,
Yeah, he's here.
recast.
Yeah, he's here.
And the steady support of his frequently exasperated executive assistant, played by Gwyneth Paltrow, in his second adaptation of a popular comic book series that originated in 1963. Director Jon Favreau crafts an almost entirely gore-free, though steadily clash-laden, cautionary tale about the two-edged potential of modern munitions, considerable, though virtually bloodless action violence. Man, I might need to get glasses. Some sexual humor references, at least one instance of profanity, a bleeped use of the F word, a couple of crude expressions, and occasional crass language. The USCCB rates this A3 adults, and the US Association of, Motion Picture Association of America, whatever it is, rates it PG-13.
I forgot there was an F-bomb bleeped out in that movie.
Yeah.
The senator.
Oh yeah, because
Yeah.
it's like live on TV. I
So
think
pretty
that's a
much
great
like
scene.
this show. Anyway.
Yes. So yeah, that checks out. I mean, Scarlett Johansson's casting. I think actually they had someone else who was going to play the role of Black Widow. I can't remember. Yeah. I'm sure.
believe
Let me
that.
look at the cast. Cast here. Robert Downey Jr., Gwyneth Paltrow, Don Cheadle, Scarlett Johansson. Let's see. Yeah, she dyed her hair red before she landed the part, hoping that it would help convince Favreau that she was right for the role.
That was her actual, it looks like a wig.
No, Scarlett Johansson's blonde in real life.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm trying to remember pre-production.
Yeah, I'm not surprised it was. I mean, in Endgame, it was clearly dyed.
Yeah.
Yeah. The most notable recasting here is Terrence Howard
To Don Cheadle.
to Don Cheadle for Rhodey.
What an intro.
What
an intro.
I think it's really, depending on what you think of it, right? It was good or bad, because he literally shows up and his first line in the movie is to Tony that says, "Hey, I'm here, deal with it." Right?
Yeah, it's something like that.
So
He's pretty
clearly,
much like talking to the fans a little bit.
so clearly, like, look, I'm different. Deal with it, right?
Yeah.
I got that even as a kid. I'm like, that's not subtle. So yeah, but I know that in this case, so RDJ's salary definitely increased for this movie, I think.
I would hope so.
And apparently, Terrence Howard wanted more money as well. He was actually paid more than RDJ for the first film.
Well,
That's not surprising.
That's surprising, but RDJ did not have a lot of
Street cred.
at that time.
Yeah. So effectively, he wanted more money, and basically they were like, well, the money that was going to go to you is going to go to RDJ because he's actually starring in this film, right? And so they were going to reduce his salary, and he wasn't super happy.
So
about
random
that.
side question.
Yes.
What is a smarmy?
Smarmy.
I don't think I've ever heard that word before.
Really? Define smarmy. It's not actually going to tell me. It's an adjective. Ingratiating and wheedling. Wow. Using words that I also, in a way that is perceived as insincere or excessive. So basically, he's very fake.
Even I've heard that word before, you old fart.
Mm-hmm. There we go.
Maybe my memory's failing me.
That's probably it.
But you know what there aren't in this movie? There aren't any cats. Meow.
I wondered if that was coming next.
So we've done it, right? We don't have to do it anymore, this podcast.
Well, we could still do it.
That's fair. Yeah. So anyway, yes.
I don't know. Black Widow has some cat-like reflexes.
Meow.
That was good.
I don't approve of that. I don't approve of that. So yeah, they replaced Terrence Howard to Don Cheadle. Don Cheadle would continue to play the role through the rest of the MCU, so far as we know.
That's a good recasting choice.
Yeah, it's pretty fair, and I think it very effectively kind of helped to shift Rhodey's role as like the, I don't know if the straight man, the sidekick straight man kind of thing. Like, would straight man?
Well,
be
he's
the good
more
phrase to
grounded,
use?
but like he does joke on occasion.
Yes. So this starts to open that up.
Cheese
a little
whiz.
bit. Yes. Well, that's Infinity War.
I did no,
Or
it's Endgame.
sorry.
I did watch Endgame in preparation for Quantumania.
But anyway,
Well, it's part of my preparation for Quantumania.
I don't know. I think it was a good casting though. Like
Yeah.
if you're gonna change it, like I think it works.
Yeah.
I mean, these movies, like the Marvel movies in general, are fairly well cast.
And yeah, like he's definitely a better play off of Tony, I think, a little
Yeah.
bit, like in a
RDJ,
very different
yeah.
way than Happy is, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think what's interesting about this, so there's not just a shift in the casting, there's also a shift in the character's relationship to Tony, because the key thing to note here, once Tony has shut down all of his weapons manufacturing still.
Mm-hmm.
And so he no longer has a government contract for weapons. And so Rhodey is no longer officially the liaison to Stark Industries. And so they now have a relationship that is a little, I would imagine, a little less official.
Mm-hmm.
And so it kind of opens up to allow Rhodey to sort of actually, as a character, maybe play off of Stark a little more. And that's evident from when he's first on screen. And Tony's rattling off some jokes to the senators, and he looks over at Rhodey, and Rhodey is just kind of like got this,
trying to hold it back.
Yeah,
little bit.
he's like, Tony's making a fool of these people.
Well, I think the thing that like you can kind of realize is that up to this point, Tony has been like the most selfish person ever.
Yes.
Like he was gifted a lot of things, but like the thing is he doesn't have a lot of friends. At least he has a lot of like people that will hang out with him because he has money. But he doesn't have any like close friends. And I think that's where
that's where Rhodey
three
comes
of them.
in.
Rhodey becomes a friend.
Yeah. Rhodey becomes his, and somebody who like in this movie definitely calls him out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Like,
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I just mean like what a real friend would do, that he cares enough about Tony to be like, hey, you're not going the right direction. You need to turn this around.
Yeah, absolutely. And the interesting thing, of course, as you pointed out, right, Stark doesn't have a lot of friends.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he finally has someone who genuinely wants to back him up, Tony is kind of in that mode of like, this is my technology, this is my gig. I don't want to give this up to anyone because I don't trust anyone with this. And so gradually you're going to see him start to open up that attitude. And I think that kind of comes full circle in Avengers when he's kind of forced to be on a team.
Yeah, definitely.
So
he has to. Well, I think this is like his entry point to like having to work with someone.
Yeah.
Right. Because I think he I don't know if there's any like backtracking in this movie of him, like of his character development, but it definitely comes more forthwith from the previous movie.
Yeah.
Like where it kind of, you see the cracks in the first movie and you're just like, and this definitely exploits it, where it's just like, in the sense of like, it shows how much he has fallen. Like he has the right thing that he's aiming at.
He has the right intention now.
Yeah, but it's just, he's doing it in a selfish way.
Yeah.
He's now like, he still has that playboy billionaire persona or millionaire or whatever it is. It's just that now it's sort of channeled into actual like good intentions, but it's also circular because it's not helping him actually achieve that in a sincere way.
Mm-hmm. Are we doing a plot?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So I'll just say.
Let me explain. No, there is too much. Let me sum up.
So
Wow.
I'll take
Nice.
it. I'll take it. Let's go.
That was brilliant.
Yes.
Very well done.
So, Tony Stark announces to the world that he is Iron Man. Meanwhile, Ivan Vanko, a man with ties to Stark's father, plots revenge on him. Several months later, Tony reestablishes the Stark Expo to honor his father's legacy and fights to keep the US government and rival Hammer Industries from confiscating his technology. All while Tony himself struggles with potentially fatal consequences and side effects of his reliance on the arc reactor. He appoints Pepper as CEO of Stark Industries and hires new assistant Natalie Rushman. Also, like Pepper's assistant as well. It's weird. They never really clarify what that is.
She just becomes everybody's assistant.
I mean, they do clarify what it is.
Yes, it's Pepper's assistant.
Well, that's not what I was talking about. They clarify why she's actually there.
Yeah. Shield.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah. Well, I'm getting that. Just don't get ahead of me.
I was foreshadowing.
When attacked by Ivan at a race in Monaco, Tony begins to spiral, eventually leading James Rhodes to steal the Mark II armor for the military because Tony gets drunk at his birthday party and is basically abusing his own Iron Man suit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with help from Nick Fury and Natalie Rushman, a.k.a. Natasha Romanoff of S.H.I.E.L.D., Tony manages to perfect his arc reactor by synthesizing a new element. Nick Fury explains that Ivan's father co-invented the arc reactor with Howard Stark, Tony's father, and then he tried to sell that technology to the Russians, and Ivan's father was then deported to Russia, and when he could not recreate the technology, they shipped him off to the Gulag, and he ended up raising Ivan poor and basically had no money to his name, but he kept all of the documentation, the resources, and passed that on to Ivan. So at the Stark Expo, Tony confronts Ivan Vanko and Hammer Industries CEO Justin Hammer, joined along the way by Rhodes piloting a retrofitted Mark II armor that was created for the Hammer Industries presentation. Basically, this armor was confiscated, given to the U.S. military in a hilarious scene. Sam Rockwell's Justin Hammer pimps out this armor with a bunch of weapons.
Well, yeah, he shows like each weapon.
He's showing off each of these weapons.
Then he's like, I want all of it.
Yes. Yeah, including the thing to point out is a lot of these weapons that he's showing off, I don't think Hammer Industries actually makes.
Mm-hmm.
He points out that they're like one of them's like a Belgian weapon, and just like he's not even really.
Well, the one weapon that they did make though.
Oh, the ex-wife.
The ex-wife,
of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
So Tony goes to the Stark Expo where Justin Hammer's presenting this new war hammer machine along with all the drones that Ivan has made. Let's see. I didn't point out here that Justin basically rescues Ivan from prison and has him invent these suits to compete with Stark Industries, basically with the Iron Man technology. But he's kind of behind the scenes manipulating everything. So Tony confronts him and Justin at the expo, and Rhodes joins him, and they defeat Ivan. It's all good to go. So Tony rescues Pepper because all of the dead drones are like going to explode, and then they spark a formal romance that
with Rhodes just sitting there.
Rhodes just kind of like observing for whatever reason. It's very strange. And then
I was here first.
Yeah. And then Tony at the very end signs on to the Avengers Initiative as a consultant.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because they wanted Iron Man, but not Tony Stark.
They want Iron Man, but not Tony Stark.
Correct.
And to summarize, they were evaluating his personality, and one of the things that Tony reads out is
textbook narcissism. Agreed?
He's like, all right, yeah. Which, by the way, I now have
agreed
as a soundbite. So I literally put a separate soundbite on the board for that.
Nice.
No, it's funny because like when he says textbook narcissism, and then Fury just goes, agreed.
Yes. I can start to combine these lines too, like mix and match. Like
Tony Stark was able to build this in a cave with a box of scraps.
Agreed?
Yeah, right. There's so much we could do with this.
Inconceivable.
Agreed?
Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm abusing this board.
We are gonna have way too much fun with this.
Yeah. So that's the plot. It's very
nice
focused.
job. You did it.
Yeah, that was
you got it in like 2 paragraphs.
Well, I realized there were some pretty critical notes missing here. So if I got a little off track at the end, it's because
I think the biggest thing we can say about this movie is that this is a result of rushed production.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, from what I understand.
So the story is they wanted like because Iron Man came out in 2008. This came out in 2010. And Favreau wanted 2 years to work on the movie to get the story just right. Because if you think about what the story is trying to tell, like the stories aren't bad.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But they wanted to like go full steam ahead. The studio wanted to go full steam ahead to get to the Avengers.
Yeah.
Which is why this was kind of just thrown together and released when it was.
Well, it could be also following the Incredible Hulk that I don't think had like a huge turnout.
Yeah.
That they're
they
just
were
like
very
people are
cautious.
going to
Probably.
be people are
Yeah.
going to come to the theaters for Iron Man 2. But I don't.
To me at
Yeah.
least, this is where the classic MCU tone really starts to settle in, right?
Well, because even you notice from like the review that the USCCB did, this one is much less violent.
Yes,
the first one.
It's much less, which I think in a lot
We are
of
getting
ways,
closer to the Disney acquisition.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
which happened in 2012 or 11, was it? 11. Okay. Yeah, so we're not far here. They're definitely probably in negotiations to make this happen, and this I can already kind of feel the Disneyfication of Marvel when I'm watching this movie.
Disneyfication.
I still really enjoy this movie because it really is clear to point out that despite Tony's heart being in a better place, he's still got like a mountain of character flaws to deal with.
Well, he thinks he's just better than that opening scene with him in the courtroom. He's like, I don't have to follow the government, and I'm way better than anybody else because I like he has the better morals or like he has the better smarts or something. He's like, the thing was, even at the beginning scene, like Justin Hammer comes across as more of like a moral person of working with the government.
This is true.
Versus but you go to see that like that's really just a front.
Maybe not moral, I'll say.
Sometimes the government isn't.
But definitely more cooperative, more diplomatic, more. He's clearly like putting on this public image of like we're the good guys who, we're just trying to keep things in line. And I think also the other thing to point out here that it's not super apparent in the movie, but Tony kind of hints at it, and you assume it's kind of his narcissistic ramblings. But the world has kind of like paused conflict for a moment. Like
he's brought in world peace.
Yeah,
right?
he's effectively garnered world peace. The reality is that Iron Man has shown up, which is this new and his technology is new and completely revolutionary, and everyone has stopped to figure out what the heck is going on with this.
Well, think about it. It would be similar to, I mean, not this extent, but like when people went from horses to tanks, right? Where it's just like, oh, people are like, wait a second. The things that we are using now do not work against that. So they have to, it's not that, it's peace
It's a giant metal horse with guns.
but it's like peace because of fear at the moment. And like trying to figure out like, how can we overcome this thing rather than like, oh, we're actually all happy with each, like,
Yeah.
it's very different.
Well, and I think Pepper honestly lays down the thesis for Tony's character in like their first interaction in this movie, which is just after like the Stark Expo in the courtroom scene, where she points out like the Expo is your ego gone berserk, and she's 1,000% right.
Oh yeah.
Well, what's also interesting about this movie is like the short amount of time span from the beginning to the end of this movie. It's all during his expo.
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
What, like a week?
Something like that. I find it hard.
It's something like, because the events of this movie take place 6 months after the events of the first Iron Man.
Yeah. Yep. So a couple months have elapsed. I assume that Tony's gone out and fulfilled his mission of destroying his weapons wherever they are. Right.
Yeah, I mean that's what the world peace.
Yeah. So he's kind of put a hold on all of that.
And he even said in the court, he privatized world peace.
That's a hilarious.
It is a
line.
really funny line.
Just even like the sheer hubris that it takes to say something like that. He doesn't even really do anything that. Here's the thing: this Senate House committee courtroom scene is really, it's not even a courtroom. It's just the House committee.
Yeah.
They're calling him in to testify. And there's really no like actual legal testimony that happens here. It's just like Tony Stark comes in and basically says, I am Iron Man. You cannot separate me from this technology. No one else has this technology. I've privatized world peace. See ya. And just like walks out. Right.
Well, I mean, there's a whole thing with like, I think Rhodey is kind of stuck in a weird spot.
Yes, absolutely.
Because like he understands like following the government and like being a soldier, but at the same time, he is Tony's friend, and he does think that he's doing the right thing at the moment.
Yeah.
But it's like they take him totally out of context of like, yeah, I mean, this is a lot of power to have in a private citizen.
Yeah. Well, and what he kind of proposes straight off, right, is something almost similar to the Sokovia Accords. If you think about
this is definitely the start of Tony like changing to.
Yeah, because Rhodes is sitting there. He kind of is forced to read these little excerpts from these specific statements from his giant report. And then he's like, look, I go on to talk about like the benefits and the risks. And like, rather than confiscating the Iron Man technology, we should just fold Tony into like the existing command structure, which as someone who's somewhat familiar with like military organization and all of that, I don't see necessarily how that would even work. But at the same time, right, the other thing it reminds me of is just later on in Civil War when the Sokovia Accords happen, which basically say you are allowed to exist if you allow us to boss you around and tell you when and where you can and cannot go, and when and where, like what you can and cannot do.
That'll be an interesting movie when we get to that one.
Yeah.
Discussion on that.
Actually, I'm going to be curious to see like Team Cap, Team Iron Man, whatever.
Ooh.
Let's not say it now. Let's hold our horses here.
Are you talking about a civil war? About a civil war?
We'll get to it in a year.
But anyway, I think it definitely sets up
for
what happens in that movie.
Now, thoughts? Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I do think one thing that's like interesting, just thinking about it at the moment, it kind of feels like Tony like comes to grips with his mortality a little bit.
Yes.
Which is similar to like, it's almost like he has a midlife crisis, right? In this movie.
Yeah.
I disagree. He doesn't really have the crisis until Iron Man 3. That's his crisis. His thing here is he realizes that the technology that's keeping him alive is also killing him.
Yeah.
Direct quote from Jarvis, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But rather than reacting to that in any healthy or even productive way, or confronting this fear by any measurable action, he's literally just doing his bucket list, right? He's doing very irrational things. He drives in a Formula One race. Whatever. It's maybe a crisis. I don't think it's on the scale of Iron Man 3 because he doesn't come to grips with it.
Yeah.
I think in this case, it's literally just him losing it until the point where he solves the problem and then he's not losing it anymore.
Can we pause for a second and talk about the Monaco street race scene and probably one of the greatest Iron Man suit ups in the entire MCU?
Absolutely. That's amazing. I tried.
I remember when I first watched it, like he was talking about a suitcase, and then when he like reaches his arms in there, I'm literally just like I was blown. I'm like, no way.
They did some incredible work with that.
Yeah.
The only thing is like, okay, a little bit before that, I mean, it's very possible his ego and like the situation that he's in, he would definitely join the Formula One race.
Of course.
Definitely fits his character. But I mean, like, what on earth were like Happy and Pepper?
They were giving him the suit.
No, but they were like driving a regular car against traffic of a Formula One race.
It was the fastest route to get him the suit.
Like, that is so dangerous.
I didn't say it wasn't.
Yeah.
Like, they're the real heroes in that situation.
It all just adds tension. I mean, the interesting thing about how they shot this is that they wanted to close down a whole street in Monaco to do this, and Monaco wouldn't let them. And so they literally just shipped a Rolls-Royce Phantom over and filmed the one scene, right? Like of them driving through the street. And then they digitally added everything else later.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That is classic
it
MCU.
Checks out if you look at the blur of the cars and all of that. That particular shot, I think, was really not the best. It was definitely done to like add tension. I love the suit up scene. I love the fight scene. I feel like it just could have been better served by Happy and Pepper like running through the crowd to try and get him this suit.
Well, it also goes to show just like these two people clearly care about Tony more than he cares about himself.
Oh yeah.
It seems like.
Yep.
Yeah, 100%.
And
Them and Rhodey.
It's almost like this entire movie is just allowing like the process of him letting other people into his life.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, it's almost like they have to just like bash against him in order to do that. Because like they're in a very dangerous situation. Not only they're going against those drivers, but they like ram into Ivan. And then he cuts their car in half.
That
Like
was
they
really,
nearly like
That's
kill
pretty-
that.
That's pretty
like he has no reason not to kill them, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like he's actually trying to, and it's like he's just barely out of luck. Don't die from that.
Yeah.
That's the family friendly superhero movie for you.
So it was a little bit cheesy in that sense where I was like, okay, like Ivan could have actually just like straight up killed them there. But I don't think that serves the overall story very well. But the suit up scene is awesome.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
By the way, I do like that Happy and Pepper and Tony are all like shouting at each other at the
Yes.
same time, and you cannot tell what any one of them is saying except for Tony, like, give me the suit. And Pepper's
Like just continually like the
Yes.
door that's like half there. And they're just like, ah. And the fact that it's like the suicide door, so the one that like opens toward, like,
Yeah.
it just makes it so like he can't get in.
that suit was that particular sequence there was played the perfect amount of time, just kept messing up. It was so funny. So a couple of other things to talk about. One, let's talk about Black Widow, Natalie Rushman,
Yeah, this
Natasha Romanoff.
was her debut.
I would like to point out to you guys that when did
I just one note of like the last scene that I do think is interesting, because like once he goes to the jail and then they talk with each other, right? Like Ivan's only point was to just make it seem like he was vulnerable, and then all the other countries would battle him.
Yeah.
Similar to like I don't know if you've ever seen 300, but it's like they just need to make him bleed. Was the thing, like, because their one villain was like a god
yes
to them, so all he had to do was cut his cheek and he bled, and then they're like, oh, we know that he's not God because he's bleeding, like just like us. Anyway,
Do you- I
it's
have
like a
to-
similar concept.
I have to ask, do you have the exit the donut soundbite on your soundboard?
Oh no! Oh, I totally don't.
We're gonna have to
Sir.
ask you to
No,
exit the
Or
donut.
I'm about to ask you to
yeah.
exit the donut.
Hold on. I'm gonna just go on YouTube. YouTube, please. YouTube. Exit the donuts. I'm assuming that this assuming. Wow, I can't even speak. There we go. It'll play. There we go.
Now you're gonna have to put that on there.
Yeah. I don't want to have too much of this going on because it's copyrighted music probably. What's gonna
Wait
happen?
for it.
There we go.
I'm gonna have to ask you to exit the donut.
That's one of the funniest lines in the movie.
I'm gonna put a timestamp in there so I can cut out all that dead space.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that whole scene. I love Nick Fury just being like, "You mean this dude just took your suit?"
No.
Oh,
he
this is the
specifically
whole,
is
like,
like,
yeah.
so you're saying he came in, kicked your ass, and just took your suit?
Yes.
Like, are you supposed to be the Iron Man? Yeah. I mean, we could go back. Like, I mean, this is a little bit farther forward, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Did you wanted to talk about Black
Oh,
Widow?
just
Yeah.
Black Widow. Like, I want to point out that she would not get her origin movie for a decade
Yeah.
after this film. A
yeah.
decade. Can we all sit here in this room,
Well,
agree?
it was supposed to be a decade, and then it ended up being 11 years.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
over a decade is my point. Over it. Can we all in this room agree that she should have gotten this movie a lot sooner?
There are two. Okay, so I've brought this up more than once. So I think Black Widow makes more sense in the Infinity Saga than Captain Marvel.
Yes.
Those if I were to switch two movies in the release order, it would be those two. Because like what was the point? Like if you think about the Captain Marvel movie, what purpose did it serve in the Infinity Saga other than she appears for literally 10 minutes in Avengers Endgame?
Yeah.
Yes, it's literally a movie, a feature-length introduction to the Deus Ex Machina of Endgame.
Yeah.
Makes no sense. Black Widow literally could have been there the whole time.
Well, and it even takes place prior.
Well, some would say, and I don't totally disagree with this either, the Black Widow movie should have come out at least around 2016 after Civil War, because that's when Civil War came into theaters.
I could see that. I think it also works really well as coming right before Endgame because she's the one that dies.
How would you explain the post-credit scene of that movie?
Oh, Black Widow?
Yeah,
Well, here's the thing. Things are going to have to be rewritten to make it work, right?
sure.
Yeah. I think because if we're taking out the Captain Marvel movie, then we have to rewrite the ending of Endgame to not make it a Deus Ex Machina.
We could, I was going to say we could just switch end credit scene. We could put the mid-credit scene for Captain Marvel into Black Widow. That would actually make sense.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing like,
And then put the post-credit scene from from Black Widow into Avengers Endgame.
I do think there's something that like
It'd be a little jarring, but
I
it would
mean,
at least work continuity.
maybe
wise.
this is a hot take, but like, I definitely think like there's something about there being mystery to things.
I
Like,
suppose, yeah.
I'm okay not knowing every single little thing when it comes to like backstories. Like they talk about like Budapest, right? Like, oh, remember back in Budapest? Like, it's just like an interesting thing.
Well,
It's like,
and that-
you can just imagine what it is. Like,
Yeah,
you don't
and,
have
like,
to
it's
see
brought,
it.
It's brought up many times, but like it's never fully expanded on.
Yeah, but like, just what I mean in the sense of like, I think it's okay that not every single character has like a full length movie for them.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it's content. And they're going to explore the content.
Yeah.
Well, so here's what I think would have happened. If we're talking about putting the Black Widow movie right before Endgame, here's how the ending of Endgame changes, right? First of all, Thanos calls down the fire, right? And by the way, we're getting really off track. We'll get back in a second. Thanos
Also,
calls
like
down the fire.
spoilers for much later.
Yes. Thanos calls down the fire, but rather than a whole sequence where Captain Marvel comes in and destroys the ship, what if they're literally just like fighting Thanos inside this hellscape of fire around them, and the whole scene happens, right? And plays out. You don't need Captain Marvel in this.
No.
You really don't. I'm sorry. It just doesn't need to happen. But anyway, we're getting off track.
We will dig into the issues of Captain Marvel when we get there, because
But I did think
There's
this
a lot
was
to
a
say.
good intro into the character.
Oh, this was-
because
it is, yeah.
she's a spy, right? Like, that's
this
her main
wasn't-
concept.
this was an
And
excellent
you
intro
don't
to Black
know
Widow.
who she is in this movie. You're just like, oh, who's like this person? Like, I thought that was a great intro for her.
I love that. I love that at a certain point, it kind of becomes apparent that she's.
I want one. No.
No. Yeah, that's.
Well, I mean, the boxing, right?
Yeah,
where it's just
the
like,
boxing.
oh, like she did, like Happy is trying to teach her something, and then she
just-
totally
she kicks
schools
his
up.
butt.
I love Pepper's reaction of just like, oh my god, that was so good. But yeah, I love that clearly as the movie progresses, right, she's revealed to be a lot more than what meets the eye.
It was so great at like towards the end where like Happy is just punching this guy like over and over. It's just one guy.
Mike Tyson's him.
and then it zooms out and like she's beat up everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and so I think the funniest part to me is where Tony goes into what's now Pepper's office, and Pepper is now leaving, and Romanoff
moving
is,
thing?
Yeah, Romanoff. Well, Romanoff, that's hilarious too. But Romanoff is just like, I'm surprised you could keep your mouth shut, and he's just like in awe of her. He's like, how do you do this? Like, can you even speak Latin? And she just starts rattling off Latin to him. And so,
Did you look up what this meant?
Did
Or, like-
you?
No,
No,
she
no.
says.
No, that cannot possibly mean that.
I don't know. Who knows?
I don't know what's going on.
So there's the scene that
Like I know what scene you're talking about.
But she was like, mind your own business or something. Like what the line after was definitely not something that would be in Latin.
Oh, she's like, I can either, you can either go back home or I can have you collected. Something to that effect.
And I was like, she said like 2 words in Latin. Like that's not what that means.
She could just be BSing him.
Exactly.
She's a spy.
Yeah. We'll also keep in mind that Latin is a very different language construction wise.
It's also
true.
It's also a dead language.
That's kind of the whole point of why it's weird that she speaks it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's such a strange character introduction. But of course, the movie kind of has to have her there as eye candy for an audience for at least one shot.
Yeah, when you're not at the expo with all the cheerleaders.
At least, quote, at least one shot.
But I mean, the thing is, like, she's an interesting character in the fact that she uses that like to her advantage, right?
Yeah, no, she definitely
as a spy,
she definitely takes advantage of it.
Like even in the first Avengers movie, like her intro into that movie, like
yeah, she's
absolutely
totally manipulating all of them.
Yes. Although I'd say they do a lot better job of it in that scene.
Well, the first Avengers movie does a lot better job at
being a movie
than this one.
Fair. That's fair.
But I do think that,
hold on.
Agreed.
Okay, but anyway, moving on with like kind of I do think the whole scene where so it's after he meets Ivan, right?
Yes,
and then he's coming to grips with himself where he's has the whole like drunk scene, or like because of the situation and his birthday, he's just doing whatever he wants to do. I thought that was like a really good point of Rhodey being a true friend in that case.
Yeah.
Because he's like, he sees what is happening to Tony and he's just like, how can I help him?
How can I help him? Maybe
and kind of address the situation to remove the people that could be hurt.
Yes. So he does a couple of things here. First of all, he does the thing that the movie is kind of supposed to frame as the thing you shouldn't agree with, which is he confiscates the armor and leaves with it. But more importantly, yeah, he kind of clears everyone out because he is trying to get through to Tony about the fact that he doesn't have to be doing this alone. He tries to tell him this, right, in a scene just before, and Tony is just like, look, I got this. And for our listeners, I'm doing big air quotes. I got this. And so he doesn't get through to him there. And then he sees that Tony's making a fool of himself. And so he goes to get the armor. And I think this also maybe speaks volumes because apparently Nick Fury points out that it shouldn't, like, no one should have been able to walk in and take those suits.
Yeah.
Which tells me that there was either some other discussion or some other person who thought that Rhodes should have access to those suits.
Well, wasn't he going to tell them that they were going to confiscate him one way or another?
Yes, but I mean the fact that he actually got access to the lab, right? Which technically he wasn't supposed to be able to do according to Nick Fury. So this tells me either one, someone else very close to Tony let him in, which it wouldn't surprise me if S.H.I.E.L.D. let him in.
Or Pepper.
Or Pepper.
Yeah, or Pepper. Yeah.
The only other thing that I could think of is that Tony himself already knew that Rhodey was probably the next best person to be using these. And so at some point, Tony himself may have given him access to these.
This was even teased in the first movie.
Well,
yes.
Next time, baby.
I wonder if there is a little bit of forethought there that Tony recognizes his own death. He puts in place Pepper to take over, and he was probably thinking Rhodes to take over for Iron Man once he's done.
Yeah. And so I have to wonder if Rhodes confiscating the suit was not something that was entirely involuntary. That's a lot of negatives in that sentence, but do you follow me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, it's a very interesting scene. It's very cool to see their relationship evolve in that way because you definitely start to see Rhodes loosen up a little bit as he kind of dons this armor. Right?
Dons this armor.
Yeah. Okay. You know what? I didn't even notice I did that. Oh, that will. What is that? A rim shot?
Is that a rim shot? I think that's rim shot worthy.
Oh, I was thinking applause.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. I'll do it. Absolutely. So yeah, I think that this movie is as much about their relationship evolving as well as it is about Tony's and even like his relationship with his dead father.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like he tends to think of Howard as someone who is very distant, and that's true. It's not saying it's not true, right? We're not suddenly saying here that Howard's a great dad. But Howard basically admits to him on film that like, you are the person I'm most proud of. I already know you're going to move on and do great things, and you're going to do the things that I couldn't do. So I think at the end of the day, I think
that's a really good dad move, right?
Yeah, that's a good dad move. That's a good bring some warmth into the old ventricles here. The heart.
Well, I think if he would have lived, I think Howard.
That's a way to say it.
I think if he would have lived, Howard would have been a much better dad.
I think so.
Oh, 100%.
I think they would have probably reconciled at some point. Although, to be fair, a lot of things would be different because most likely Tony would not be CEO of Stark Industries.
This does address a lot of Tony's daddy issues.
It does.
And yeah, and like from that, I think from the adversity of both Ivan and learning this stuff from Howard, like it allows him to further his suit, right?
Yeah, I would say he finishes the arc reactor technology. In that
he invents that was a little bit like science wibbly wobbly stuff with like him inventing
timey-wimey.
Where you're just like, it's like, okay, I mean, yes, I understand like supercharging elements makes like new element, but like the way that he went about it is like, that's a little weird. And like also how coming from an architect's side, he like cuts the structure in his house. And I was like, okay.
Yes, this is dangerous at all.
Like start falling apart.
Yes.
He does not give a crap.
Well,
about
and he used
his,
Captain America's shield to
He doesn't
level
act.
something.
But like through both movies, he just does not care at all about his house, and like it just like destroys everything.
So I'd like to point out he does not use Cap's shield, actual shield.
Yeah, it's like
yeah, not his actual shield.
But it's like a
prototype, yeah.
Definitely some kind of like Easter egg prototype kind of thing. I also love that Coulson has a brief role in this movie. I still feel like the MCU
it's actually important for the next movie.
It's really funny though that like because he meets him and he's like, "Oh, it's great to meet you," and he's like, "Oh, your pleasure," and he's like, "Not that much."
It's like, Coulson, what'd you want? Goodbye.
Yeah, Coulson's just like, I'm leaving. Like, see you around. We need you. And Tony's like, more than you know. And Coulson just goes, not that much.
Yeah. Okay. That's what it was.
Right.
Yeah. Where it was just like, you think too much of yourself.
It's just what I love about Coulson is that he does not miss a beat. Like it's and this is something with all of the S.H.I.E.L.D. characters, right? They don't miss a beat. They know exactly how to come back at these eccentric, people. And so for Coulson to just right off the top of his head be like, we don't need you that much, right? like you're cool. Don't be a jerk.
Well, the thing is, it's like you look at the people that they're also recruiting, right?
Yes.
You got like the Incredible Hulk that they're like, it's like, we could use a face, but we can use anybody. Like they're putting more Iron Man in his place, right? Yes, he's unique, but he shouldn't be that selfish and like think that full of himself.
Yes. Yeah. So other characters to chat about in this movie, there's not much to say about Pepper, except she's kind of put in a situation that she's not equipped to deal with.
And she's allergic to strawberries. Apparently.
Well, but I think she's more responsible than Tony ever was for running the business. Like it makes so much sense.
Well, yeah, she actually cares. She actually stresses out about it, right? But that's about like the extent of her character in this movie. But we also have Mickey Rourke as Ivan Vanko.
I mean, they actually have a romantic moment in this movie.
They do. They do.
It's not a bad one either.
Versus the first one where she's just like, you're like, what? What is she doing?
Yeah. Well, I like that movie kind of like shows the awkwardness of that dynamic because this is technically an employer-employee relationship.
And now it's no longer that.
Right? And so there's this very strange thing that happens, but the first movie plays it off as being very awkward, rightly so. And this movie kind of like shows how that comes around to maybe Tony caring about her enough to start doing things for her that he can't do, right? Like trying to make her an omelet, which he fails miserably
or
at.
like trying to get her a gift and knowing that there's some relationship with it and getting the exact wrong gift.
Yes.
He's at least making an effort. Like, right?
Well, no, he knew that too, right? Didn't he? He knew that she was allergic to strawberries?
Well, he knew there was a connection, is what he said. Like there is some association between pepper and strawberries. I just didn't know what it was.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Yes, happy Valentine's Day.
Yep.
At least you tried.
At least you tried.
So yeah, I mean it's
Hey, that's a step for Tony. Try.
He tried. He didn't succeed, but he tried. No, so the other two characters are the villains. I would say the villains are really interesting to look at.
Yeah, Ivan Vanko and Justin Hammer.
I feel like Ivan's character is really Mickey Rourke's character is really underplayed in this movie.
Yes,
I think that's
they didn't do enough with Vanko.
I love that.
Well, think about the dynamic. They both have a similar situation where both their dads died early and they took over their legacies. Just like how the different modes.
You're
in
talking
which they
about
went
Vanko and Stark, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, and the thing I find
They're supposed to be like two sides of the same coin. They're both geniuses. They're just in very different predicaments of where they're left.
Yeah.
Well, and at first, I actually really like Ivan's motivation. He doesn't even care about killing. I mean, he wants to kill Tony, right? He doesn't even care that he fails.
Yeah.
Because he accomplished his task of like, you know, letting the world see that Tony is just another man, which inevitably Tony was going to show the world himself, right? But Ivan really blows out of the water Tony's claim that no one else is going to have this technology for a long time, particularly Hammer Industries, apparently. Which, based on the performance of the ex-wife weapon, I would say is probably true.
That part was great.
That was a funny moment.
And legitimately, like, I don't know why, but for some reason, I did actually know about the characters of Iron Man and War Machine before like the movies ever came out, and I just thought War Machine was cooler because he was like the bigger one with like giant guns.
He's got the big gun on his shoulder,
and it's just like it just seems way cooler. And I'm just like, oh yeah, and the fact that like they hinted at in the first movie, I was really glad when I saw this in theaters. Like, oh, they actually did the War Machine character.
They
like,
did
justice to a certain extent.
Yeah, they did a really good job with that, I think.
And I loved that they actually came together and he agreed that like to work with Rhodes.
Yeah, partner. Calls him partner.
Like, he calls him an actual partner at the end.
Partner. Partners. Partners. There we go. Yeah, partners. Cool. That's enough. So yeah, I mean, there's that. I like that Ivan's motivation, if I can digress, is really simple and like really effective because like that's some anime villain stuff, right? Like just doesn't even care about killing Tony. It's
I mean,
just
his
like,
drones even look like anime villains.
yeah, kind of, yeah. They look like a Bastion from Overwatch. I don't know if you probably never played it. Yeah, you get it, right?
Me,
they just need to turn into a turret and then they can start.
Yeah. It's okay. Hey, come on back. It's okay. It's okay. We love you. We love you, Nick. Don't ruin the framing. No, so but I do think as the movie goes on, he becomes a very simplistic villain of just like, well, now I'm gonna again. He's more focused, less on killing Tony, and more focused on just ruining the Stark legacy,
which Justin Hammer told him to do.
Yeah, I mean, Hammer's all in on it. Hammer is, I love Hammer's character because he's like he's clearly the wannabe Tony Stark.
Well, he's also such an imposter.
He's also played by Sam Rockwell.
Sam Rockwell.
He plays him very well.
I have to wonder.
Sam Rockwell, I think, is supposed to come back into the MCU. Also,
why not?
Yes, I think so. Obviously, Hammer Industries,
the Armor Wars movie. I think he's coming.
Oh, okay.
Well, and Hammer Industries is supposed to it shows up many other times by reference in the rest of the MCU.
It's true.
It does go to show, like, it's almost like the third side, right? Like, Tony has the money and the brains. Ivan has the brains, but not the money. And it's like, Justin has the money, but not the brains.
Yes.
Okay.
He's completely untalented. Who knows how he even got that role?
It seems like almost like if there was, he inherited the company or something.
He was like, I mean, Stark even humiliated him in court.
Yeah. Well, and I have a feeling that Hammer's the kind of guy who knows how to hire smart people and then basically take credit for their work.
Yeah.
Right. And so I get that sense from like rescuing Ivan and like trying to basically be the face of Hammer Industries. And it also brings up the fact that like Tony, we might have discussed this at some point, but for most companies, right, the person that's at the top is not the person inventing everything.
Yes.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
That's kind of where this sort of separates from reality, is just that like Stark Industries, Tony Stark is the dude, right? He is the guy figuring all this stuff out.
I mean, that was
That's a different Jeff Bridges movie.
anyway, but
oh gosh, really? Okay, so yeah, Stark is like the guy.
the guy, yeah.
And I will also
can't even
say
reference
that
Spy Kids 3D.
Well, I will.
Oh
I
my
will even
gosh.
say in Endgame,
Yeah.
the whole Lebowski thing even comes full circle.
I don't get the reference.
The Big Lebowski,
I've never seen the movie.
Wait, what an Endgame?
Thor.
Oh.
Tony says, "Wrong side. There. Come on one side there, Lebowski."
Okay,
It all comes full circle.
gotcha.
Wow, I did. Okay, yep.
I just want to talk for a moment about the Justin Hammer scene, which is
The bird.
not the bird. It's when he's basically explaining all these weapons. And I have to wonder if it's a 2-shot with 2 cameras, and they've got one on Don Cheadle and whoever is playing the other colonel or other character. And then they've got one on Sam Rockwell as he's like going through all these weapons and explaining them, because Rockwell's performance in this scene is legendary. It's so funny. And like he gets to the ex-wife, right? And it cuts back to Rhodey. And you can tell Don Cheadle is trying not to laugh.
Oh,
Because he goes hand over face, right? He does that thing that actors do. Like I could
It's
tell.
like in Rogue One when K2 slaps Cassian
Yes.
and Diego Luna's covering his face because he's
Yes.
actually laughing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can't help but wonder if it's a 2-shot and that is actually Don Cheadle's reaction to Sam Rockwell's performance.
Like I said, I think Sam Rockwell is a really good actor.
Yeah.
And he totally plays this part.
He plays the wannabe Tony Stark really, really well. So yeah, I think his villain is actually even better than
Ivan.
I really can't wait to see him come back in Armor Wars.
Which really goes to show, because like Mickey Rourke is like a award-winning actor.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, like he's good.
Yeah. What was I? Oh, I do think that there is like a big difference too of like, clearly Justin Hammer has this idea of a public interpretation, or like what are they what the public thinks of him.
Oh, PR?
Yeah, like he's very much
Just
about
image?
trying to save PR, where it's like
Yeah, safe face.
Tony is just like, I'm just gonna be me. Well, I do think that is one thing that I appreciate about Tony.
Yeah.
versus-
Well, and Tony has the celebrity personality already, right? He was this way before Iron Man.
yeah,
Which is like, it's strange to think that a company that makes weapons can be on the level of like Steve Jobs, like levels of popularity. Because like Steve Jobs was very much also almost a celebrity in a lot of ways, because of sort of being the face and the CEO of Apple. Regardless of his legacy and all of that. And so I just kind of get this feeling like Tony was very much that way before. Justin wants to be that. I love that like every chance he gets, he's trying to like talk up how cool he is.
yeah.
Even to Ivan, and Ivan's just like, dude, you aren't crap, man.
Well, okay. There is the one scene, right, where he's just like, where he talks to Ivan, and he's just like, oh, you're just making like these robots. You're not making the suit that I asked for. And he like takes his shoes, he takes his bird, he takes all this stuff, and he's just like, and Ivan's just
My
like,
bird.
and he's like, these 2 people will watch you. Don't leave this room or whatever. And he's just like, you just know from that second, it's like, those 2 guards are gone.
Yes.
There's no way they're stopping.
Well, can we talk about how Justin Hammer turns into like a pouting child? Because he's like, I don't speak Russian. His face freezes in like this dramatic
That's
pose.
literally like, as I was arguing, I'm just like, oh my gosh, he's a freaking child.
He's an actual child. Yeah.
My board. I
My
want
bird.
my
I
bird.
want my bird. Also, the fact that like Justin Hammer has a Tootsie Pop for like a good chunk of the movie, whatever it is.
That's true. Like he doesn't. Yeah, he has something to. Yep.
I haven't had a Tootsie Pop in years, man.
Do you remember that one
want a
like?
Tootsie Pop.
Do you remember like that one cartoon commercial? Mr. Owl, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? Well, let's find out here. One, two,
Stop. I'm gonna stop you right there before I mute your microphone. Those sounds are getting in my head. And mute. So, any final thoughts before we go to score?
Do you think the message of this movie, like, what are your kind of last thoughts? Like, did it accomplish what you think it?
I think
trying to
I think there's something to be said about how because like you could very much parallel Tony's situation to how like people who find out they've got like 4 more months left to live or something.
Mhm.
Like how like kind of coping with your impending death.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of times people push people away in this
Yeah.
situation.
Yes.
Like I don't want you like have to worry about me. And I think it really goes to show where
Well, Tony didn't even tell Pepper he was dying.
yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
But I feel like he just does not rely on anybody else. Like it's almost like coming to a head of what self-reliance looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think also this movie is maybe just a little bit, because obviously he doesn't quite get over his narcissism, right?
Correct.
Where is it?
Well,
Where
and
is it?
Agreed.
So he doesn't quite get over his narcissism. But I do think he kind of gets over being a celebrity a little bit in this movie,
A little bit, yeah.
because he still has like a public face and he still interacts with people, obviously. But
I
I
feel like after revealing how he goes to the bathroom in his suit would.
yeah, he's maybe a little less like of a celebrity.
One of the questions I get asked is, how do I go to the bathroom in this suit? I just did it.
Yeah, just like that. Yeah,
Agreed.
I'm gonna.
we're
overuse that
gonna be
soundbite.
abusing that sound.
I'm gonna be
quite a bit.
overusing that soundbite. So yeah, I think it's good to point out this movie is about very much Tony's relationships and how he lets people into his life and maybe stops relying.
You could
so
say
much on
it's
himself.
another relationship study.
Oh.
Not quite on the level
Yeah.
of Breakfast Club though.
It's definitely more of an action movie than character study. But
Yeah. But I think it does what it needs to, and it pushes his character that next step towards Avengers, where he can finally like really make the choice to like sacrifice himself. Right.
Mhm.
Which is what he does in Avengers, right? Spoiler alert, whatever. This isn't a spoiler.
This is like, I mean, Avengers came out more than 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So
Also,
we're
as I
fine.
pointed out, this
most
is
likely you've seen Avengers.
Yeah.
Like people that
Most
haven't even
likely.
seen all of the movies leading up to Avengers have seen Avengers.
Yeah. Well, and also to point out again, this is not a spoiler-free journey through. This is a retrospective, right? So we're looking at the whole thing here.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't want this kind of thing spoiled for you, like go watch the movies and then come
Yes.
back.
So that being said, although we could, I suppose, make it a rule not to talk about future installments, but we'll talk about that later.
Well, it's fitting it within the bigger story.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, the whole point of a retrospective is to see how it ties into the
Yeah.
bigger story.
Yeah. So that being said, my dudes, what are our scores here? Nick, what do you think?
I give it a 79.
Okay.
I liked it more than I thought I did. But I can definitely acknowledge it is not the best entry in the MCU.
Yeah.
Are you want
Yeah,
to go,
I'll give my score.
Okay.
So I like this film. I think it's pretty good. I certainly enjoy watching
If you
it.
give it another decimal, Seth, I swear.
No. No, I'll save that for another day, good sir.
Gosh dang it.
But I will say that it's definitely not as good as the first movie. It's not as impactful as the first movie, and I think it kind of starts. You see the formula start to take shape in this movie. And in terms of the production, some of this you're starting to like some of the CG definitely seems less genuine. Like particularly the Formula One shot with the Phantom driving through. The Streets of Monaco, like it's not as great, but some of it's still really good, like the Mark V suit up in Monaco.
The Mark V suit up is so cool.
Just like I remember watching that scene, that sequence on repeat so many times as a kid, as a younger man. So I would say for me, 65. I really still enjoy it. That's not to say I don't enjoy it. It's not nearly as good a movie for me as Iron Man, and I know I rated Iron Man 75.
Just a heads up, our guest is here.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, we're just about done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to go get him real quick? We can pause recording.
When we get John, you give your score. I'll be right back.
Yeah. All right. Nick's gonna hop out for a moment.
Okay.
What do you think?
Yeah. I was just for me. I know a lot of people really dislike this movie. Like in comparison, they're just like, it's just not as good. It's not as iconic. But I think for me, like, I think it does fit into the overall picture. I don't think it seems like something had to happen to Tony between the first movie and Avengers.
Yes,
and I think this
for
kind
sure.
of fills that gap. And I do think I'm slightly biased because I do like War Machine.
War Machine's cool.
I think it's really cool.
I ain't beefing on War Machine.
I'm so glad that they included him in this.
Yeah, really, really awesome.
That I would actually, I would definitely rate this lower if it wasn't for War Machine being in it. But
okay.
But, 74.
74. All righty.
Yeah.
Well, we're still waiting on Nick to get back. So
it's definitely it's my lowest Marvel movie so far.
yeah, but at the same time,
it's not terrible.
yeah, it's definitely like a decent score. And again, I really enjoy this movie. I still love to go back and watch it every now and then.
But I mean, there's so many other movies that I would pick over this one. In the MCU.
Yeah. So you said 74, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So 79, 65, 74. Calculator, please. I have to do this. So 74, 65,
And 79.
and 79. Whoops. Clear. 74 plus 65 plus 79 is equal to divided by 3. 72 and 2/3. So we'll round it up to 73.
Yeah.
There we go.
You really brought it down, Seth.
Yeah. Well, someone's got to keep expectations in check. So I want to thank you. Nick's not back quite yet, but I want to go ahead and thank you all for tuning into this episode of the Genesius podcast. If you enjoy our content and you want to hear or see more, please subscribe to the podcast. You can find us on most podcasting platforms, including Apple, Google, Spotify, and more. We're also on YouTube, handle @Genesius Podcast, now that they have handles. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you would like to see the actual video podcast. It's pretty good. And also some cool Lego sets, like this Iron Man helmet. It's pretty dope. Nick's got a nice Lego set. I'll just pan. Nick, your Lego sets are awesome.
Yes, they are.
Yes. There we go.
You can see one sitting in front of you.
So yeah. Nick, I just read the cue for my part. So if you want to continue.
Awesome. Well, if there's a movie you want us to talk about here on Genesius, any ideas related to movies, feedback to make our show better, or if you just need prayers, specifically if you want us to pray for you on the show, send us an email at genesiuspodcast@gmail.com. That's GENESIUS podcast@gmail.com. If you know one of us three personally and want to be a guest on our show, make sure you reach out to one of us personally, letting us know what you want to talk about, whether it's a movie or movie-related topic, and use the aforementioned email address, genesiuspodcast@gmail.com.
Last but not least, please spread the word about our show by sharing it on social media or by word of mouth. Make sure you are telling whoever you are next to about us, whether it be right at this moment.
Hey, John, have you heard about the Genesius podcast?
No, what is that?
It is a podcast where three Catholic dudes talk about movies.
Great. Sounds awesome. Where can I find it?
You can find it on any podcasting platform and YouTube.
Sweet.
Meow.
So just like that, you can do that at a family dinner, at work, or on date night.
I mean, Valentine's Day was a few days ago.
It was, yeah. Happy Valentine's Day, love. Have you heard about the Genesius podcast?
I have a gift for you, and it's just the podcast.
The podcast. Yeah.
We should make like a mock commercial, just advertising. As if you don't have enough film projects already to work on.
Anyway,
Seth.
so hey, we're doing a film right now.
He's got a point, though.
Wherever you are, make sure you tell them about us. But more importantly, pray for us as we keep making this show.
Prayer intentions today, gentlemen. What do we have?
For those who have, in lack of finding a better way to say it, a more like limited, like lifespan left.
Oh yes, yeah,
Like a terminal.
Yeah, like terminal illness. Thank you. That was
for those
that's
with
a much,
terminal illness.
much better way to put it.
Yeah, we can absolutely do that. So, all right, who would like to?
Well, also for any of those who
Yes.
push people away.
Oh yeah, for those that feel isolated, that feel like they need to be isolated. Yeah, that's really tough.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else? Otherwise, I can lead us in prayer.
Yeah.
All right.
Go for it.
The Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit, enlighten our hearts. Teach us how to pray. We lift up today those who suffer from terminal illness. You know, they may not have a lot of time left. For those that are afraid of suffering, for those that are afraid of the suffering they may have in their time left, that you walk with them during this time, and that you give them the grace to live their time to the fullest. And that goes for all of us, because all of our time here is really limited as well. We also lift up those who push others away, those who are isolated and in some ways bring about their own isolation because they feel like they need to be isolated by whatever that may be. We also lift those people up in prayer as well. And we entrust them to the comfort and the care of our Blessed Mother as we pray. Hail Mary,
full of grace, the Lord is with thee.
Blessed
Art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Saint Genesius,
Pray for
pray
us.
for us. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
Thank you, Seth, for praying for us. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me today. And thank you, listeners and viewers, for tuning in with us. Until next time, we are the Genesius guys. I'm Nick.
Filling up for Kyle, I am Seth.
And I'm John.
And this is the Genesius Podcast. God bless everyone.
Good timing.
Yeah.